We've had a very long Melodi Grand Prix compared to most other years, and here we are to run you through the runners and riders and who the favourites are for Saturday night's big final. So, without any further ado, I am joined by the lovely Emily from Eurovoix. Hi, Emily. She's
Hello.
a resident Norwegian expert on Twitter. You've probably seen her 100 times. Ranting and raving about Alexander Rybak and other things. And we also have our very own lovely Dominic, who may be the only person at the team who's watched every single Norwegian week of the show and therefore was parachuted in to be our resident expert. Now, that's not to say I've not seen it. This year's final has taken over five regional semi-finals in which 4 songs competed in duels and then a super duel, and then one person won the ticket each week. So the grand finals made up of 10 entrants, 5 of which were pre-qualified and 5 of which have won the weekly regional duels. Now, if that makes sense, that's good news because it gets more complex from here. The 10 performers will go again on Saturday night. They'll be whittled down to 4 for a gold final, but it's not a gold final because they will be then shortlisted to 2 for a gold duel. And in the gold duel, the votes, instead of being presented as a total, will be presented regionally. So we will see which Eastern Norway, Northern Norway, Central Norway, Southern Norway and Western Norway prefer, and from there the winner will be the one with the most votes. It's clear as day. It's going to be a very long grand final on Saturday night. But Emily, as the resident Eurovision fan expert on Norway, who's the favourite?
There's quite a few, to be honest, which is quite surprising. Where do we start? I mean, there's, well, my personal favourite, Reign Alexander, which is sort of like a, you know, it's either love it or hate it, sort of Marmite, but I do believe it is one of the favourites. Who else have we got? Didrik and Emil. Obviously, Didrik has already represented Norway on his own in 2010 when they hosted. Who else is there? Rayleigh. She's a big favourite.
You have
Danley.
Oh, you go with Tony. Yeah, go with Tony, who lost to Alexander back in 2009.
Yeah, and obviously Ulrika as well. I think that's 5, 6. Did we have 6?
Well, did we cover Magnus Bokken, who actually is written by Alexander and Joust?
Yes. Forgot that one.
A lot of contenders. It's also worth mentioning that Ulrika Brandstorp's entry is co-written by Kjetil Mørland. Riley's entry is co-written by Anders Frethov. And Andreas Stone Johansson and Laurel Barker, who are basically Margaret's songwriting team. And also, well, sorry, in there, Didrik and Emil, it's co-written by Fredrik Bostrom, as well as Didrik Solitangen and a couple of other writers. So it's big writers for the big favourites going into Saturday night's final. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Dom, from what you've seen, your favourite on the night, and what do you see happening?
Well, I think when you check the odds and the like on Twitter and Facebook and social media, I think Ulrika is like a huge favorite at the moment. She's the one to beat. Like my personal favorites are Didrik and Emil. Like, I don't know, the song makes me feel whole and it is complete, and I just love it, and I just keep my fingers crossed for that. But we have like 5 songs who can potentially win on Saturday. Like Em mentioned, all these songs are also co-written by like famous persons in Norway. They have huge fan bases, and like, for example, they put in the running order, they put Tone before Ulrika, which is like, I think that they have like the same maybe voting audience, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Tone is like a bit bigger in Norway.
Yeah.
So this might be interesting. I'm still mad that they put Didrik at number 2. But yeah, okay.
I wonder if this is a little bit like a vote test. I mean, the best example I've got is Melodifestivalen when Loreen won. They put Dani Saucedo last, and Loreen was not mixed in the running order, but there was entries between them. And of course, Melodifestivalen's famous for having Let's Leave the Best till last. So I viewed that at the time as a big is Loreen going to win this? Can we vote test her against something that we absolutely know is going to score a high vote? And I wonder if they've kind of done the same with Turner Damler in putting her not last, or in Ulrike's terms, penultimate in the running order. By putting her 7th, I wonder if that's a case of let's test how strong her baseline vote is and whether that's going to be enough to really compete, and then putting Ulrike last as the challenger, I suppose, in terms of voting figures. That's my opinion on the running order. It's interesting what you said about Emilia and Didrik, because for me, it's where My Heart Is Yours kind of leaves you. It was really catchy and a really emotional piece to see live. This feels like a next step. It feels like a real good follow-on from the first entry. Em, what do you reckon to old Didrik and Emil?
Oh, I think it's so cute. I can't stop listening to it. As for like chances, I'm not sure it's the best song in the selection, I have to say. That there are a few that I do have above it. But I can see people voting for it, definitely, and especially if people are reminded of Didrik, they might think, oh, he was, the guy that represented us when we last hosted. It's sort of, it's quite sweet, and I can see people voting for them because they are just so likable as well. So I don't know, it's a cute song.
We touched on Ulrike already, and the fact that with fan zones, that is really very much the popular one. For me, it is my out-and-out favourite. I think the live performance she did for Heat 4 was astonishing. And it's one thing to be able to present a piece of music in studio where it's really moving and you feel really captured by it, but to then be able to present it really well in an intimate, and it was a small arena in the regionals, you think that, wow, that's a really great staging and really cleverly done. But her live vocal is just sensational. So for me, that is my out-and-out favourite. I lost a lot of my preferred choices in all of the regional rounds. I would say that none of my first choices made it through in any of the rounds. And for me, that shows, number one, perhaps the Norwegians have a certain tendency to vote for types of songs. And I think number two, it tells me that there is a strong vote based on fan bases. And I think that that's where it might come down to. I think it's worth shouting out, as we have already, Riley with Wild. And I'm going to play the kind of, not the Melfest card as such, but if you're a song that was released 5 weeks ago, you've been in the public conscience for much longer than a song that was released last week. So whereas Riley came through 5 weeks ago with Wild, Lisa Vasileva, who will close the show, came through last week. So when you talk about being stuck in the brain and memorable and something that people can attach to, I think Riley is the biggest challenger from all of those that have qualified, although I will concede Rain Alexander, for the same reason, being 4 weeks ago, is another that they've had momentum growing all this time in Norway. Because the songs have been available for over a month. I guess it's a question, is that fair, number one? Particularly when Turner Damler and Ulrike have only been out for 1 week and 2 weeks. It's a very unusual system to do it that way. And we might see an impact in the results. And do you think there's going to be any impact on that in terms of the songs that were released earlier doing better? So, for example, Sondre and Riley in week 1, do they have a better chance in terms of having recognition with the audience, do you think?
To be honest, I hadn't actually thought about that, and you do make a really good point. But to be honest, for me, I can't really remember those songs as much because it came out feels like so long ago.
Yeah.
And because I didn't really connect with them on first listen, I've just not listened to them since. So it's quite difficult for me to really say. But I mean, if someone was to, listen to it straight away and think, wow, this is really good, I'm going to keep on playing this right up until the final, they're more likely to vote for it. But I don't know, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because obviously, like in Melfest, you don't get the songs available straight away unless they go to Andrew Johansson. So, I don't know. It's a tricky one.
Yeah, Dom, have you got any thoughts on the early ones having a better chance?
I think Riley is especially maybe had some advantage because she pulled the streams. She got like huge amount of streams. I think she outstreamed the other 9 songs. I think I read it on Twitter.
Wow.
She has like 1 million something, and the rest has like 100,000 something. And I don't know how much viewers the semifinal had, but I think in the final a lot more people would tune in, and I don't think that this will make like such a difference. I think Rayleigh is like something for maybe the Eurovision audience, like the people that watch everything. But I think on the final night there were like so many new viewers that maybe it doesn't matter if you like released the song 5 weeks ago or just like last week. It could be possible that like Rayleigh is also like more on the radio because of her streams and maybe then more well known, but tricky.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that we won't really, I guess we won't really know until the night. If it turns out that the earlier songs end up in the gold final, then perhaps that is an argument for Norway to take away. I think it's also worth us touching upon Reign Alexander again, just on the basis that with such a powerful song that is in the vein of kind of similar entries that have been sent, shall we say, by other acts over the years. Do you think that will have an impact on Norway picking effectively a kind of Viking folk song when we've seen one of those at Eurovision recently?
We've seen it do well, though. That's the thing. And, you know, I feel like Norway would love this sort of, I'm going to use this word, I don't think it really is, but sort of like a gimmicky sort of song. It's obviously not a joke entry, it's very serious, but it's obviously got like a meaning behind it, because obviously it's like a Viking. And people are going to remember that. If it goes to Eurovision, people are going to say, oh, you remember that Viking guy that went for Norway? That was pretty good. Whereas, like, the other acts don't really have that. But I like it anyway.
I've got one final question for you both, and I'll start with you, Dom. Of the 10 entries in the grand final, well, it's a two-part question. One, which do you think is the most likely to have the show-stopping moment and be the one that makes the audience and the viewers around the continent go, wow, and which is the one that you think is going to win?
Well, that's tricky. Before we record the video, I was like watching a recap again of all the songs. And I really think that Ulrike had like the wow moment and that her vocals were amazing at the semifinal. And she just pulled it off. The performance was simple. And I really think she could manage to take it home on Saturday.
And Em, same question to you.
Yeah, I think probably Ulrike, but I think it could be between, if like the final two, I think is between her and Reign Alexander.
Okay, interesting. I agree with you, really. Unless there's some major changes to staging for some of the acts, I think the jaw-dropping moment will be Ulrike, 9th. You know, you sat through 8 entries of varying qualities and styles, and then it's kind of like a mic drop moment that means I think Lisa Vassileva will get completely forgotten in the aftermath. But I also think that I've got a slightly different gold duel. I believe Riley, with the early momentum, might see herself through to the gold duel, particularly if they tweak the staging ever so slightly. But I do think it's Ulrike's to lose. So that seems to be pretty much a consensus on what Norway will do. But if you've liked this video, do give us a thumbs up. Comment below what you think is going to happen in the Norwegian selection on Saturday night. And of course, make sure you push the notification bell to make sure you get all of our latest videos sent through as push notifications to your laptop, to your phone. YouTube are incessant on sending out notifications, so I just suggest you do it. But thank you both, Em and Dom, for this lovely video, and we'll speak to you all again soon. Bye-bye.